for 8 years and seen that he is none of those things they paint him to be. I just felt I'll write a book to put things in their proper perspectives.
And the book was well received by him. I just wondered, when you showed him the manuscript, because I know after you left office, you disappeared for a few months to finish the book. And then you got back and you went straight to see him in Daura. What was his reaction to the book?
Yeah, when I gave him the manuscript, the first thing he did was to go to the contents page.
Yes.
And when he looked at the titles of each chapter, some he will read and laugh, and then some he will just smile and nod. At the end of the day, he said, Nigerians will love to read this book. Nigerians will love to read this book. He flipped through the pages. There were some areas I asked him, I mentioned this. Should I remove it? He said, leave it. It's part of our history. Leave it there. Now that the book is out, I see them playing up all those in the media and trying to make mischief with it. I just laughed. They didn't know that even the former president had known and approved those parts to be
Okay, so I was reading one of the comments on Twitter. Someone said in reaction to your book that, it looks like this Mr. Adesina, he don't plan this book. He knew that he was going to write these memoirs from day one. Your power of recollection is what they couldn't get over. So I suppose my question is, when you get an appointment such as that, is that the first thing that comes to your mind? I've got to start preparing for my memoirs. Or when does the idea come in?
Not exactly. If you asked me along the line, are you going to write? I would say maybe yes, maybe no.
Yes.
I wasn't quite sure whether I would write or not. So it was not as if I went into government planning to write at the end of it all.
Yes.
I could have written and I may not have written. I just, sometime when we finished, decided that, okay, I will write. So it was not as if I went into government planning to write this. Let me tell you an encounter between myself and the then General Buhari on phone. The first time he called me was the build-up towards the 2007 election. I had written an article about him in the Sun newspapers. The following day, my phone just rang, and he said, "This is Muhammadu Buhari." I said, "Which Buhari?" He started laughing, and I just started laughing. I said, "General!" And then we started talking. He said, "I read the article." He said, "You must have the memory of an elephant. All those things you wrote there, how did you remember them?" That was I was right.
So one of the more controversial topics that you touch upon in your book is that of Nnamdi Kanu, who is, by the way, still detained, been detained since June 2021. You alluded to the fact that if Nnamdi Kanu was not extradited to Nigeria, he would have been eliminated.
No. That was a twist of what I wrote. I read that twist, which is not correct. What the president said when the high-level delegation from the southeast came to the president, pleading that he released Nnamdi Kanu to them, they pledged that he would be of good behavior. And the president said what they were asking him was very difficult. One, because it was already a judicial matter, and he never likes to interfere with the judiciary. Once something is before the courts, he wants the courts to adjudicate on it. And then secondly, he said to them, "You asked me to release him unconditionally." He said, it's like a boy who stood outside and began to throw stones into his own house.
Yes.
Then why should he be released unconditionally? He said, we are a government. If we had wanted to kill Nnamdi Kanu, even abroad, we could have arranged it. But we decided to bring him back home so that he can have his day in court and justify all the allegations he had leveled against the country. He said the country is a zoo. Let him say it before the court.
Yes.
So the president said, we did him a favor by bringing him home so that he can justify all the allegations he has leveled against Nigeria. There was no plan to assassinate him, and the president said, we could have if we wanted, because we're a government. Said, but that didn't come into our thoughts at all. We preferred that he be brought home so that he could justify all the
or what he had been saying.
Yeah.
One of the most interesting recollections for me in that is the Emilio Con episode. And the decision, as you put it, by the principal aides of former presidents to brief him when you were airborne. I think you were on a travel
with
Spain.
The
president in Spain then. So you all decided that once you were airborne, you as his advisor would approach him so that, according to you guys, you didn't want him to get a varied and distorted version. Now, we all remember that speech of Emilio Con. What could a varied and distorted version look like that would be worse than the perception and implication that those words had already created, on that fateful day in Abeokuta? I'm trying to see why your team thought it was important to brief the president, and why you thought it was possible for a varied and distorted version to be given to the president.
Now, when something happens, look at the newspapers and the news media generally. They take it from different perspectives. Yes. Some on point, some off point. Look at stories that have been written from this book, for instance. A lot have been distorted.
Yes.
So that was why we felt the president was going to land in Nigeria. He would read the newspapers, and then we didn't want it to be a surprise to him when he saw all the headlines and the papers going in different directions. Yes. He will now be wondering what is the truth. Yes. That was why we held that meeting, that once we were airborne, I should approach him and brief him on all that had happened, which I did.
What was his reaction?
He's a man of few words, very few words. He listened to me patiently, and that's one of his strong points. He listens. Anybody talking to him, he listens patiently. And after it, he said, Asiwaju said all that?
I'm surprised.
He's surprised. Asiwaju said all that? And then he said, thank you for coming to brief me. That was it. And that was it. But later I learned that when you go to Asiwaju met him, and I think
the iron things
out. Yes, the iron things out.
Because I'm thinking, to many of us observers who were watching the events leading up to the election, that speech would be said to have been targeted at the former president. It looked like a resistance. Of course, some of the current president's supporters have always thought that President Buhari was lukewarm at best to President Tinubu's ambition. And so in saying, Emilio Con, it is my turn, no one can stop me. No matter what you all throw at me, this is my turn. Especially, if you recall, he used the words Olule. He tried the first time, Olule. Tried the second time, Olule. So everyone thought there's only one person who's tried to be president 3 times, and it's President
It was not in doubt that he was talking about President Buhari. It was not in doubt. But then you see that immediately after that speech openly in Abeokuta, there was a press statement from Bayo Onanuga, who was a spokesman to the presidential campaign then, putting things in proper perspective. It's also in my book. You said lukewarm. Lukewarm is not the word I'll use. Neutral is the one I prefer to use. If a sitting president is lukewarm towards you,
nothing will happen.
Nothing will happen. If you know the power that resides in the presidency, you will know that if a sitting president is lukewarm towards you or doesn't want you, nothing will happen in your favor.
Yes.
The president was just neutral, and he allowed things to play out. And
he wanted a level playing field,
which he ensured
with all the candidates. Okay, so till today, some of Asiwaju's supporters still have it in their minds that President Buhari didn't want Tinubu as his successor.
They have a right to their opinion. But recall that even against the electoral law, when the president voted in Daura, he displayed his ballot, showing that he voted APC. So, how else will a man prove that he wanted somebody as his successor than that? Yes.
Okay, but there's no doubt that the APC seems to have many blocks, and that's understandable. The four parties came together to form that party. Did you, as the head of the Buhari media team, feel at some point that the campaign of Asiwaju was distancing itself from the achievements of the administration that you served? In the run-up to the campaign, when the campaign first started, it looked as if they were going to be campaigning on the achievements of then Governor Bola Ahmed Tinubu as governor of Lagos, rather than riding on the many achievements of Buhari in the last 8 years, in which were the pioneer years of the APC at the presidency.
I didn't get that feeling. Maybe if that perception is there, some people try to play it up, but that is not the overriding perception, because President Buhari was with him in many of his campaign stops.
Yes.
If he didn't want him, one, he would not be there. If not, Buhari, when he saw the overwhelming crowd, without Buhari joining him in that campaign, I was in most of them, it wouldn't have been the same as what we saw. Yes. Because Buhari still, even after 8 years, he still had that cult-like following. Even today, when I go to Daura and he goes out, I go out with him, if you see how people still respond, it's simply wonderful. So I don't have that impression that the Tinubu campaign wanted to distance itself from the achievements of President Buhari. And many times, President Tinubu has also said that Buhari was like their precursor. And when they met at this book launch, you heard what he said.
In fact, people were surprised that the president turned up at your book launch. Everyone thought, we will see if Tinubu really turns up.
He gave his word.
And he did?
Yes, because I sent him an email.
All right, welcome back, and I still want to stay on this issue of the alleged friction between former president and, one of the things that the current president's supporters hold on to is that currency change, the Naira redesign. At the time it happened, the general word on the street was that a lot of politicians had hoarded Naira notes, and President Buhari had been briefed about that hoarding, and that in order to have clean elections, there was a decision taken to change the currency so that it would make it difficult for politicians to buy the votes from the electorate. What would be your reaction to Tinubu supporters who think that that singular policy was directed at them so that it would make it difficult for them to get people to vote for the APC?
Why would it be difficult for the APC and not for other parties? If it affected APC, it must affect PDP, it must affect Labour, it must affect all the other parties. The one thing leaders must know is that they need to be careful of what their supporters say. They need to discern carefully, otherwise they will cause problem between them and other leaders. So, if the Naira redesign policy was to give us cleaner elections, was it only one person that was going to the election? Was it only one party that was going to the election? So if it affected one party, it must affect all the parties. And no doubt, President Buhari still keeps saying that. Do you know that in that election, 9 governors who wanted to go to the Senate couldn't win their elections? Do you see governors ever failing elections?
The
retirement home. But one failed during that election. So we had cleaner election. It was not targeted at any single politician or any party, but we had cleaner election. And do you also recall that even during that time, kidnapping stopped? Because if you kidnap anybody and you ask for ransom, there was no cash to bring. I remember that in Kano, was it the APC secretary that was kidnapped? Day 1, day 2, day 3? Nothing. Nobody answered their call. Nobody brought a dime. When the captors were tired, they just slapped the man 3 times and pushed him out. Bad market. Because there was nobody answering them because there was no money to bring.
Was the president fully briefed? Because there's still this brouhaha in the polity about whether or not the president was properly briefed, whether or not the then CBN governor had the capacity to push forward this policy. Were we prepared for that Naira redesign?
Yes, I was privy to most of the things that happened as build-up to that redesign. How many times Godwin Emefiele came to meet with the president, meetings they held, which I sat in, and I had to issue statements and all that. So I guess the policy was properly enunciated. The actual implementation may not have been as seamless as it should be, but the enunciation was good, and the president was convinced that it was the way to go. If you read this book, he spoke about it.
Are any of you who are the members of the media team of Buhari surprised that sometimes when you read the papers or you listen to current members of this administration, it would seem that the government of Buhari is being vilified by members of the same party? I still remember the current National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu, talking about how this administration inherited almost nothing in terms of kind of economy, and some of them saying things like, oh, the country was run aground. About the former president.
Well, I ascribe it to limited knowledge. If you have limited knowledge about something, what should you do? Try to understand it. Try to read up, try to get information. But if you begin to speak without having done that, your shallowness will come out. So it was limited knowledge that made some people say what they said. And do you know the response of President Buhari to us privately? Said, leave them. Everything is documented. That's what he said. Everything is documented.
So he's not worried, he's not fearful if there's a probe?
Not at all. During this launch, he was talking about the importance of documentation. That was what he meant. He said nothing was done under the veil of secrecy under his administration, and everything is on record. So those who said what they said, if they had sought to look at the records, they would have been better educated, and so would not have said what they said.
Did the president have a preferred successor in that last election?
He was neutral. If you had a preferred successor, the power that resides in the office of the president is so enormous, nothing will have stopped that person.
From emerging.
Nothing will have stopped.
So when the former Senate president was pushed forward and it was implied that it was President Buhari's choice, that wasn't true at all.
There was a statement that came saying the president hadn't endorsed anybody.
He didn't endorse his vice president either?
Not anybody. He just said, please go to the primaries, let the best person win. Whoever emerges.
And he received many visits from everyone who was aspiring.
Oh yes, that's the right thing to do. He was the father of the country. So a good father should create a level playing field and bless anybody aspiring.
But you know that all those who were coming to tell him were obviously coming to tell him because, they thought...
He will endorse them.
Yes.
Well, maybe they didn't know President Buhari enough. Those of us that know him know that he's such a fair-minded person. If he does something and he thinks he has wronged another person in that process, no, he would rather not do it. He's a person who is always mindful of the last day when Allah will ask him questions and judge him. This is what he told me. You get to see it in that book later. When there was talk about lopsided appointments in the country, particularly in the area of security, the day he called me to announce Lawal Daura as DGDSS, he had removed Itai Ekpeyong from South-South. So I said, Mr. President, tongues are wagging that you are appointing too many people from the north. You have removed a man from South-South. Why not replace him with another person from the South-South? He now told me that when he's going to fill positions like that, a committee is set up, a search team is set up, and they work. At the end of the day, they come with 3 recommendations. 1, 2, 3. With number 1 being the best. Number 2, second best. Number 3, also appointable. Most times, 90, 95 out of 100 in 8 years, President Buhari will always approve number 1. And what he told me that day was, if somebody has come first in that exercise, and because of his religion, or because of his ethnicity, or because of language, or because of anything, and I bypass him, appoint another person, Allah will judge me on the day of judgment.
So it didn't matter what part of the country you were from, you were the next in line.
If you were the best in the exercise, it didn't matter where you came from. And like I said in the book, that's the bit ahead of its time in Nigeria. Because Nigeria not only will look at everything from the area of where you hail from, they will look at it from religion. So President Buhari didn't countenance all that. He just went for the best in any exercise.
Let me bring you back now to your relationship with the late Chief of Staff, Abba Kyari. I was shocked to read that there was a fractured relationship between yourself and him. Did he perhaps favor someone else for your post?
Fractured will not be my word. Frosty will not be my word. I'll just say not convivial. We didn't have that kind of relationship that you would think a special advisor will. His successor, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, I had a better relationship with him. Because the day he resumed, he said, Femi, just take me as a big uncle. And anything I needed to discuss, I went straight to him. The late Abba Kyari didn't have that kind of disposition. He was a bit aloof. And you are the way you are. You can't help it. If that was the way he was made, no problem. What you probably have read about my relationship from him were the excerpts people took from that book, which was not complete. For you to get a complete picture of my relationship with him, read the entire chapter, A Tale of Two Chiefs of Staff. When you read it, everything will fall into place. The video just took what will sound good, what the readers will like, and what will reverberate and
will latch on.
Will latch on to. If you read the entire story of my relationship with him, how I mourned him when he passed on.
I know.
I genuinely felt it when he passed on, because I would have wanted him to finish with the administration and
because it got me thinking that were you an outsider when Buhari brought you in? I think if not the first appointment, the first 2-3 appointments that President Buhari made. And a lot of people were shocked. I wasn't, but we all knew your relationship with the then General Buhari. So I thought, okay, was it that he considered you to be an outsider brought in?
I wouldn't think so, because he just needed to know what was the background between me and General Buhari, who later became President Buhari, and then he wouldn't consider me an outsider. As far back as 2013, when my mother died, President Buhari came to attend the commendation service we did for her in Lagos, a Christian service, and he stayed all through. So I was still active in the media during the campaign, but I was giving support from the outside. And that was what I thought I would give even to the administration, support from outside.
Yeah.
But eventually when I was invited to come, it took me a while to decide to go. You will see that the very day I had to resign my appointment as Sun MD and President Guild of Editors, I began to cry because I didn't want to leave uncertainty for uncertainty. I had never worked in government before. I didn't know how it would be, and but because it was President Buhari, that was why I went.
You made a point that you never worked in government before. Is it that the opportunity never came? You didn't actively seek it, or you just were not interested?
I was not interested. And I remember that one of my active readers in the media, Japheth is his name, he sought me out one day, came to the Sun, he said, I want to meet the person who writes this thing week after week. So he came and we got talking. And then he asked me, would you ever serve in government? I said, no. Straight, I said, no. Then I thought about it again and I modified my position. I said, well, I can serve in the government headed by Muhammadu Buhari. That was what I told him. That was my conviction then. Any other person apart from Muhammadu Buhari, I wouldn't have taken.
So now, if you're called upon to serve, like in your home state or Osun State, for instance, would you be open to that?
After 8 years, you get tired, don't you? After 8 years, I felt I had done my bit. Out of 200 million Nigerians, I had served for 8 years, more than my fair share.
And it wasn't called a thankless job.
Well, they call it so, but me, I wouldn't call it so. You remember, if you read that book, you will see the encounter between me and the Sultan of Sokoto. He had known me before I took on the assignment. He called me Kuli Kuli after my email address. So, the very week I was appointed, he came to the villa, he saw me, he said, Kuli Kuli, this job you are come to do, it's a thankless job. He said, with your predecessors, it has been a thankless job. He said, but with you, it shall not be so. And I said amen to it. So today, I don't see it as a thankless job. It was a tough job, no doubt, but not thankless.
I remember when you were appointed and you coined that phrase, wailing wailers. You know, your strict loyalty to President Muhammadu Buhari. I've always wanted to know your reaction to critics who said that statement, wailing wailers, was unbecoming of a presidential spokesperson.
There's a perspective. Perspectives are free. They have the right to it. But you know the truth about the wailing wailers was that it was directed at the PDP and Olisa Metu, their spokesman.
Yes.
In the first few months in office, you find that President Buhari could not do anything right. Anything he did, Olisa Metu will issue a statement. If it rained heavily, he will issue a statement. If it didn't rain at all, it was Buhari's fault. If you saw a wall gecko in his house, Buhari turned to that wall gecko. And all that. One day I now said, what is this? I now did a tweet that these people, they are forgetting that they have lost power. And they will be out of power for a long time. Wailing wailers. That was my tweet. Now, it was directed at Olisa Metu and his party. But anti-Buhari elements online say, oh, he's abusing us, he has called us wailing wailers. So they appropriated that tag to themselves. If they decided to appropriate it, I left them. They were welcome to take it.
Welcome back to my concluding moments now with former special advisor to former President Muhammadu Buhari, Femi Adesina. Alright, so two major issues that made Buhari trend. I mean, very, very major issues. One, to bring Al Sudan, and of course his purported wedding to the Humanitarian Affairs Minister, Sifia Omar. I mean, they even printed invitations.
Yeah.
We heard Professor Shimbaji when he gave that anecdote at the launch saying, you know, he wanted to sue people who he felt had defamed him, and the president said, at least they didn't print Ivy for you. People were even calling Color. Color will not move. So I want to get a feeling of what happens in the villa when issues like this come up. Give us a real look into how the president reacts to those sort of stories in conversations with you. Because I know you've told me that he reads the papers voraciously, and you brief him every morning on, you know, issues that you
by
think
10 a.m. he wants to see.
He wants to know what is going on. So what was his reaction to that Jubril al-Sudan first?
Well, the Jubril of Sudan was foolishness. It was completely obtuse. He left the country in January on a medical trip. He came back in March, went again in April, and came back finally in August 19 to be precise. The day he arrived, I remember that the then Chief of Defense Staff, General Gabriel Olonishaki, was giving out his daughter in wedding. So I went to attend that wedding, and naturally I was in Agbada and cap. Before I left for church, I had got a message that he would be arriving that day, that I should inform Nigerians. So I issued a statement. From the church, we went to the reception. I left the reception about 3 o'clock.
Yes.
The president was to land at 4. And I didn't feel I should go back home to change before going to the airport.
So
I went to the airport.
Yeah,
if you still recall the tape of that day, you will see that when he shook me, we were laughing. And what did he say when he shook my hand? He said, Adeshino, this is the best I've seen you dressed. So you made it complete today. And by the way, we clapped him out and we laughed. Now the question is, if he was Jubril, will he even recognize me? Will he know I'm Adeshino? Will he know how I normally dress?
Yes.
So that just knocked out the story of Jubril for me.
Yes.
Anybody that said it, I knew was being foolish. How do you think the man that was in the villa was another person and his wife would not know? He says I saw him every day.
How did that story start, and how did it get entrenched to the point that people believed?
And you know it came from Nnamdi Kanu.
Right.
Yes, he was the one that started it.
That the Reed Wari is there.
Yes, and you know that Nnamdi Kanu has a large following. Everything he says to some people is the gospel truth. So they received it, they believed it, but those of us that know. And you know, before the president himself left government, he responded to it.
Yes.
He said it was absolute foolishness, which I believe it is.
Did he laugh about it? I mean, at some point it must have been funny to him.
No, he just dismissed it.
Okay.
He just dismissed it. Just like one time there was this thing in the social media about his daughter getting married on a certain day at a certain venue.
Yes.
It was so widespread. And I went to his office and said, oh, so I see that a wedding is coming up in the family. He said, where did you get that? I said, social media. He said, don't mind those nuisance.
There was no wedding?
No, not at that time. Yet, they had appointed a venue, named one of his daughters, and everything was false.
The other funny one was his purported wedding, and people turning up at the Central Mosque on Friday for prayers. And everyone assuming that the wedding was going to hold, and they all turned up. Even though they were not directly told by the president that I will be getting married.
That shows you how fertile the imagination of some mischief makers can be. When the president was ill and he was in London, and after he had come round and he was recovering, I remember he placed a call to me one Saturday. And he said, Adeshino, thank you for holding out against the mischief makers. He said, I see everything you do. I watch. He knows that there are plenty of mischief makers in the country. That purported wedding was a product of mischief makers. Recall that the DSS arrested one man whom they paraded, who did tape purporting that the president was going to marry the finance minister.
Yes,
Zainab. So that's just part of it. And then they say that of the humanitarian affairs minister too. Just concoction.
Those were funny times. Did the former president have any regrets?
I have attempted to answer this question before, and the media twisted it. That I said he regrets so many things.
Yes.
And my answer was that there is no human being who does everything right all the time. You can't claim that everything you do 100% all the time. No, there will be some shortcomings with the benefit of hindsight. But regret is a very strong word. What I would say is that President Buhari did what he considered was good for Nigeria at any given time. With the benefit of hindsight, he may feel, oh, maybe this one I should have done this way or this way or this way, but regret would be a very strong word. Why did he apologize for some things? Because maybe he felt it rubbed some people down the wrong way. So, regret would not be the word, but he just felt maybe this could have been done better. His guiding principle was to do the best thing for all Nigerians at all times, to the best of his ability.
One of the things that Nigerians are disappointed about is that they thought in President Buhari coming in as a former general that the issue of insecurity would have been tackled more than we saw. Yes, when he came in, Boko Haram was controlling some areas and some local governments in the northeast and all that, but we subsequently saw many incidents, the Buniyadi incident, we saw the Chibok girls.
Buniyadi was before him. Chibok was not even under him.
It was under Jonathan.
It was under Jonathan, and he recovered a large number of the Chibok girls. Dapchi was under him, and within that week, majority of the girls were recovered except about 3 or 5, including Leah Sharibu.
In terms of that insecurity, could he have done more?
He did his best. What I'd like you to recall is that before Buhari came, every day in this country, bombs went off 5, 6, 7 places. Daily. In fact, we, our friends of Ruben Abati, used to even jest that Ruben already had a template for his statements on bombing. He just would change the time and the date. Because there could be 7 bomb blasts in one day.
Yes.
He would just fit in the venue and the time to differentiate it from the last one he issued. But by the time Buhari left, did you still hear bombs? No, you didn't hear bombs. Schools were being bombed, markets were being bombed, motor parks were being bombed, lives were lost in hundreds. He had made tremendous progress on the security front. It was not fully accomplished,
yes,
but a lot had been achieved. Those who live in the Northeast will say it better. I remember that in his last year in office, February of 2023, we went to Yobe. We were in the palace of the Emir, who told us that previous years nobody could stay in that palace. Everybody had evacuated, including himself, the Emir. He said they put $1 billion in that palace. Nobody born you well to go in there to say you want to take that money. Because Boko Haram was sitting there. But by that time, the emirs had returned to their palaces. Orientation camps for NYSC that had been shut down had resumed. Roads that were impassable had resumed. President Buhari did a lot in terms of combating insecurity. It was not fully accomplished, but that is why governance is a continuum.
Yes. Wherever
one government stops, another one continues.
No government can do everything.
I've never seen that government.
Chapter 21 of your book, you talk about the official trips. Total trips made by President Buhari were 94, 19 trips in 2016, 2023 and 2021, 5 trips each. 2020, 2 trips. I wondered why you only did 2 trips in 2020.
2020?
Yes.
No, it couldn't have been 2 trips. The only year that the trips were limited was 2017, the year when he had his medical challenge.
Yes.
And then 2020 was the COVID lockdown, that year too.
Yes, that's why.
Yes.
That's why.
You know, COVID came December 2019, 2020 was the year of lockdown. From January to August, September, there was nothing happening internationally. Even the UN General Assembly that we used to attend every September was done virtually. So the world was locked down.
What do you say to critics who say, well, 94 trips in 8 years, but nothing to show for it?
Well, it's a language they like, the critics. Nothing to show for it. They will see Second Niger Bridge, still nothing to show for it. They will see Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, nothing to show for it. They never see anything. They will see Local Oweto Bridge, nothing to show for it. That's their language.
What do you consider to be President Buhari's legacy projects? The projects that will stand him out in years to come?
Well, infrastructure first. Do you know that Bonny never had a road? The Bodo-Bonny Bridge is on as we speak. In the first time in the history of Nigeria, Bonny will be linked by road, and history will have it that it was under President Buhari. Second Niger Bridge, President Buhari. Local Oweto Bridge that links North Central has cut travel time by about 3 hours. It was under President Buhari. Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, since it was made in 1978, had never been done all over again. Now it is there. I remember reading a tweet by Dele Momodu, who is one of the Buhari critics. Yes. He said he left Oshogbo and he was surprised to find himself in Lagos in about 2 hours. That was the same journey that would take you 6 hours before Buhari. Because Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, you can do it in 1 hour. So those are things to remember President Buhari for. And then that's in the area of infrastructure. There are many others. But for me, one very important thing that Nigeria should never forget is that the economy was diversified. Our economy had been mainly mono product, oil. All governments before Buhari had paid lip service to diversifying the economy. They never got it done. But under Buhari, oil that used to account for about 90% of GDP began to account for just 9%. Because Agric had taken the large chunk, ICT had taken another large chunk. Oil, there was a year oil accounted for just 9% of the GDP. So, if Buhari hadn't come and placed emphasis on agriculture that way, you know what would have happened? Particularly during the lockdown, the whole world was shut down. If you wanted to import food, nobody would sell to you because they needed the food in their own countries too. And cash was not available.
There was no movement.
No movement. Exactly. From Thailand, how would you move it? If he hadn't placed the emphasis on diversifying the economy through agriculture, how would Nigerians have survived? There would have been riots everywhere. In Venezuela, an oil-producing country like Nigeria, they were crossing the border to look for food because oil was the only thing they had. But because Nigeria had diversified the economy, we had rice, we had beans, we had maize, all the grains we were not importing again. So I think that will stand Buhari's regime in good stead, that really Nigerian economy became diversified and oil was no longer the mainstay of the economy under Buhari.
And what would you say to those who say that he shouldn't claim the Second Niger Bridge as his achievement because it wasn't started by him?
Oh, really?
It was started by former President Goodluck Jonathan.
From the ask Minister Fashola, he will tell you how that project began from scratch and how it ended. Buhari is not tussling with anybody. Do you know that a lot of projects that were started by his predecessors, he completed them? That shows you that...
Is there anything wrong with completing projects?
Exactly. You know, PDP was, I don't want to say foolish, unsmart. PDP was unsmart enough to say, it is our project that is completing. Is there anything wrong with that? Is that not why governance is a continuum? But Second Niger Bridge from scratch was a Buhari project. Minister Fashola told me, and I recall he told you in a documentary you did, that when he was appointed, President Buhari called him to the office and said, there are 3 or 4 projects I want you to do for me. 1, Second Niger Bridge. 2, Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. 3, Enugu-Onitsha Expressway. And 4, Abuja-Zaria-Kaduna Kano Road. He said, do me those 4 projects and you can do whatever you like after that. That's President Buhari for you.
Well, you talked about Dr. Reuben Abati earlier on, and I remember when his term was over as special advisor, he had written this article when he said, when the phone stops ringing. So I wanted to ask you, now that you've left office as special advisor, has your phone stopped ringing?
There's no difference. No difference between how I received calls when in office and how I receive now. In fact, when my phones begin to ring back to back, my wife will say, don't they know you are no longer in government? There's no difference, really. Because before I went into government, my phones were very busy. In government, very busy. Out of government, still very busy.
All right, so on a final note, I want to take you back to November 2015. You were coming on a trip from Malta.
Going to
Malta with President Buhari. You talk about wind share. I'm just imagining all of you on that flight. Were you all giving each other the look as if is this the end?
This is how that plane is structured. There are about 3 compartments at the tail of the plane. You had the security people and some media people. They sit there. In the midsection, you had the senior aides there. I usually also will sit there. The president had his own cabin, but to keep the president company, they will invite 1 or 2 senior aides to sit with him. So on that day of the trip to Malta, I was sitting with him in his cabin. It was an uneventful flight. When we were about landing, the pilot announced that we were to land and all that. Suddenly, as the plane was about touching down, it began to go zig-zag, zig-zag. We were looking at one another. When he now touched the tarmac
with force,
it was going to turn around to face where it was coming from. The president said, what kind of landing is this? And then the pilot came to us from the cockpit and he said, Mr. President and distinguished passengers on board, what we just experienced is what is called wind shear, when the direction of the wind suddenly changes. And that was how it happened. We'll fly according to the direction of the wind. So when that direction changes, it swings the plane. Yes. The plane almost turned back to face where it was coming. It was really a tough one. But we thank God that the pilots were experienced.
That was scary.
It was. But President said to say, what kind of landing is this?
I mean, imagine if you are the pilot or the president, you don't really want anything.
No, that's why it must be the best set of.
Are there Nigerian pilots flying?
They are all Nigerians. Most of them are from the Air Force. We have a sprinkle of some others who are civilians, but most of them are from the Air Force. I want to tell you that it's a big relief that we finished the assignment, we finished it well, we finished it in one piece. We finished it with our names intact. It is good.
And the FCC is not coming out. No,
not even. You said just yet. It will not happen because it was a media office. Like I said in my book, in the first 5 years, we didn't even have a budget. So what will you actually come to look at? What will they come to look at? So, and the way I was brought up, my father inculcated it in us. Honesty is the best policy. He got us to recite it as children. Honesty is the best policy. If there had been a budget of billions in my office, everything would be accounted for. That is the way I was brought up.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adesina, for speaking with me today. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
I'm Angela Ajetumobi.
The pandemic opened the world to a new dispensation regarding work. How people work and the career paths they take differ from generation to generation. There are 5 generations present in the modern workplace, each with unique expectations and perspectives. A person's career path is described as the work they do and the roles they hold as they climb up the ladder. Before the millennium, career paths for many was simply linear, which could be a person working at the same organization and growing there till they retired, or a person working in the same role but changing jobs a couple of times. Security and staying power were the cornerstone of this career path. However, with modern technology, A person's career path can be as multifaceted and versatile as the individual wishes. Millennials now work multiple roles in their career trajectories, pursue numerous passions that are sometimes interwoven, and work at different roles in their journeys. Baby boomers and Generation X only considered a job good if it gave them the security to work there till they retire. But for millennials and Gen Z, the workplace has changed and so has the career structure. Millennials often change their career paths or juggle multiple interests simultaneously. Being able to move from one job to another might signal a person's employability and adaptability. Baby boomers tend to believe that working long hours is what defines success and value face-to-face interactions with co-workers. In contrast, millennials believe that innovation and flexibility are key ingredients for success at work. The shift in occupational structures, for example, the increasing gig economy, is leading to polarization in employment, wages, and inequalities. From remote work policies to virtual leadership, the pandemic changed how we work. The opportunity to telework increased for some, such as knowledge workers, but not for frontline workers. Among the benefits are an improved work-life balance for some, as well as changed attitudes to well-being. Teleworking can lead to a higher productivity and lower operating costs for companies. Work is increasingly flexible and decentralized. Working from home or out of a workspace is favored by many because of the flexibility that comes with it. Millennials and Gen Zs prefer flexible work schedules and part-time hours so that they can balance their work and life compared to older generations who prefer security.
Some people are social people. When they go to the office, they have friends everywhere. Good morning. How was the football match? You just with your colleagues and stuff like that. That social element at work, a lot of people need it. Me personally, I'm an extrovert, but I'm also high on the introverted side. I like going to parties, I like making friends, but I also like keeping to myself. So at work, I'm not the friendliest. I would smile, I would say hi, but I don't need to. So it depends on your personality and what you need. For me, work from home works a lot for me because I get to spend time with my family. I'm always in the house with my partner, and that really makes me happy.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408 or send an email to marketing@plustvafrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
Hello, welcome to this edition of Timeless Conversations. My guest today is a brother, a friend, and a mentor. Mentor not because of any other thing, but the fact that he does whatever he does well. And I like to learn from people who do stuff well. He's none other than Richard Mofe Damijo, RMD for short. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yes,
Thanks.
welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I believe that you know, but I think you will tell me what you do know truly. That if we were to write the story of contemporary theater, contemporary production, contemporary film, in Nigeria today, you will have to feature prominently. You know.
Well, you know, they say for us, we just do the work, and the historians like you, the gatekeepers like you, will be the ones that will etch it.
You're also a journalist. In that profession, you never retire.
You never retire, right.
So, but truly, what was the foundation? What was the fascination that got you into it?
I'm a child of television. I am a complete child of television, a child of films and everything. I mean, I was one of those who will run after mobile cinemas.
In those days?
To find out where they are setting up. So we can get the front seats. They will sit on the ground and wait for the commentator. You know, it was silent.
Yes, it was silent, yes.
But they will run the commentaries.
Yes.
And when television, when you discover that there is a man who owns a television set maybe like a few miles away.
Yes.
They start at, the man opens his window probably at 7 p.m.
7 p.m.
We start the trek from around 6 p.m. To get to the good spot on the window.
Yes.
Before my father bought his own television. So I knew from an early stage that I would love to be one of those people inside the box. Talking, you know, so that people can also watch.
Yeah.
You know. And when it was time for university, theater was the obvious choice.
Yes.
My illiterate mother, who didn't know what theater was, had to discern from her cousin, who we call Uncle London, who was supposed to be dropping me in the university the next day, who was very upset with me that I was going to school to play.
That's your uncle?
My uncle. He was like, this boy is just going to play. You know, I don't know why you let him go to university to go and play.
Yeah.
You know. My mom started crying, and as an only child, her tears usually will break me.
Yes.
And I cried, and I said, look, it's okay. I'm not going to play. It's serious. But you will see me on television. That's the only thing I can let you understand. And she was like, she looked at my uncle and said, is it true? Is he going to be on television? Well, yeah, if he does well. And as God will have it, in my second year in the university,
yes,
I think it was Ifeanyi Ayafulu or something like that, somebody that came to watch a stage play in Uniben, saw me on stage and asked my lecturer to let me come for an audition at NTA Benin. I went for the audition, I got the part. It was a lead role, it was a character called Emeka, and it was about the Osuke system.
Yes.
TV script was written by Bob Ejike.
Bob Ejike,
yes.
I know him.
Echoes of Wrath.
Yes.
Yes. Or the
Wrath of the Gods.
Yeah, the Wrath of the Gods. And that was my claim to fame. So we did the TV play. It was the entry for Bendel,
Bendel
television service, and we won the national competition. I didn't know what that had done for my image, but I can tell you that when I went home after that semester, after the play had been shown, apparently it had been repeated a few times.
Yes.
So people had known that it was me that was in that thing. And they had, my mother, of course, had already become popular. So when I got to the market and they cited me, it was mayhem because I didn't know what had happened. But they started shouting, Emeka, Emeka, and they carried me, they danced.
around the market.
Danced around the market and dropped me in my mother's shop, by which time all her friends had taken, choice positions, to welcome me back home. And it was at that moment that, I knew that I had made the right choice, because that feeling, you know, it stays with you.
Yes, it does.
It stays with you. And this was just me in school.
Yes.
I mean, imagine if I now went on to become something else nationally.
Yes.
Again, when I came to Lagos after youth service, again, it was stage play. I was, because that's my forte, I was on stage. Danladi Bako had come to the theater and saw me, and he had invited me to come to NTA for an audition.
Yes.
Then it was Sparks.
Oh, yes, Sparks.
Special Protection Anti-Crime Squad.
Yes, yes.
But we had a little thing. I'm very prompt. If I'm going to be late, I will call and I say, I'm going to be late, you know. In fact, sometimes people say, I get ridiculous because I can call and say I'll be 5 minutes late. You know. So our path kept crisscrossing. When he says be there at 2, I will be there before 2, but he might not be there. Anyway, long story short, the first day that he was supposed to audition me, he didn't see me because I had gone. By the time he came, I had gotten angry and gone.
Yes.
And the next time he saw me, he's like, you didn't show up. I told you to come and do audition. I said, I showed up, you didn't show up.
Yes.
You know, so we talked about it and he laughed and he sort of liked me and said, you know what? I was going to give you a beat pass before, just 1 or 2 episodes, but I'm going to make you one of the detectives. And that was how I became a major cast in that series.
That's like how they started calling your mom Mama Maker.
Mama, yes. So you know, I became nationally recognized, and of course, I became friends with Tade Ogidon. Ogidon went on to do Hostages.
Yeah, Hostages.
Yes, Hostages, and of course, some of my most important works were done with him. I did Diamond Ring.
Yeah, Diamond Ring.
Diamond Ring was
a strong one.
Was something else.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, and then a certain young lady came into the scene. Her name was Amaka Igwe. God bless her soul.
Bless her soul, yes.
And Amaka, you know, cast me in Checkmate.
Checkmate, yes.
Checkmate was already in episode 10 when I joined. And so I needed to make an impression. I needed to join quickly and make an impression. And I remember when I was building my character, I started doing this. As Sheku Kadiri. And then I dropped my voice to an octave, you know, like a lower. And so when I appeared on the set the first day, I didn't spare anybody. I was ready.
Yes.
Again, I haven't seen. I think I heard we lost him. Bolaji Daudu.
Oh.
Yeah, I think so. I think we lost him as well. So Amaka is gone down. Bolaji. I remember a scene that that made me an instant hero on the set. I remember that I was with Ego Boyo, who was Anne Hathrop.
Yes.
And I remember, I think I went to her office, and as I was talking to her, I did like this. I tapped my leg and I put my legs on her table.
Yes.
You know, and I could see the shock in her face. Like, and then the director was like, you know, you know, so it became a thing for me. You know, when I get to office, I tap my leg and I put it on the table. Just show disregard or something. You know, so from early on, I came in and enjoyed myself. I enjoy everything I do, everything that has to do with this business. You know, or anything that is given to me as an assignment, I will do it to the best of my ability, as if my entire life depends on it. And that has been my motivation for everything that I do. Little did I know that 62 years later, it will become like the hallmark of, you know, my success.
It's actually the hallmark of your definition.
You know, so I look back now and I'm saying, thank God for loving my work and not minding what anybody else will say around me.
Yes.
You know, because you are given a name if you work too hard.
If you work too hard. Yeah, I used to be the
Ethical and all of that.
I used to be the world gecko of the studio.
Who does he think he is?
Yeah.
Why does he have to? Why do you have to always overdo it? You can just manage. They will manage it. Like no.
But then, you know, it's strange, it's funny, it's against the drift. For someone like you who, as an only child, one would expect to have been spoiled silly by your mom.
Oh, my mother, God bless her soul. She will wait for somebody like you to come visit me. When all my friends come, then she will start shouting. She will start screaming and crying. And I will be begging, like, calm down now, my friends. I said, no, let them know how you treat me. Her common phrase is, when I say it in pidgin, it's sweeter.
Yes.
I say, if person born one pikin, then they die put. I'm supposed to talk to you with my eyes.
Yeah.
If I look at you, you're supposed to know what I'm saying.
Yes.
You know, nonsense. I will start begging her to calm down. My mom will raise me, will lift me over my ear.
Yes.
You know, so she said to me, this one child that I have, you will be like 20.
Yeah.
You will cook, you will clean, you will be a girl, you will be a boy. You will do everything that a child is supposed to do, yes. So from age 10, in fact, from age 8, I was cooking. You know, till date, it's one of my superpowers.
Yes.
You know. So when I was dating your sister, she couldn't cope. She had to run to her auntie to learn. She said, this man. She would eat in my house and I'm like, which of your girlfriends did this one? I said, it's not my girlfriend.
I did.
I'm
my mother's child.
Yes. You know?
So really, you know, for me, I think that background fired you up too.
Oh yeah. Oh yes.
Just to pursue excellence.
Oh yes. I don't know how anybody that doesn't have strong parental guidance can cope. You know, I mean, because there's so much distraction out there.
Yeah.
For us, it's not even as bad. You know, growing up, but today,
it's terrible.
From games, the phone alone, the distraction of the phone alone.
It's too strong.
I don't know about you, but I mean, when we were young, in my teens, what we did was to look for those people who sell books.
Yes, now to buy.
You will buy Hadley Chase and you stack it.
And then you start to read.
Yes.
There was usually a competition.
Of course.
To outread.
To outread. When it was now the time of Leon Uris.
Yes.
You know, the Born Identity, all those things. You will start to read, and you know, the bigger the novels, the better.
The better. And then if it was comics, you read so much.
I mean, we will fight about books.
Yes.
We will, you know, you say, oh, how many have you read?
Yeah,
you will stack it. So now, all of that is gone.
It's gone.
All of that is gone. I don't know. They are not even reading books on Amazon or e-books. No. You know, I remember earlier when I started, when we got married, my wife would say, why do you just load your suitcases with books? I have a thing for hardcovers. I just buy hardcovers. I love hardcovers. I love to turn the pages.
Yes.
You know, so, you know, all of that gives you the discipline to be able to. So today, one of the biggest things that people our age deal with is to be able to adapt and switch.
And switch, yes.
Yes, to this digital age, to be able to match the energy of these young people. Unfortunately, some of us didn't, we were not able to make that switch.
That's what I wanted to ask you next, actually, that how were you able to make the switch? And don't throw the question back at me.
Okay.
Right? How were you able to make that switch? Because there you were very strong on theater, the stage, right, television, and then movies came in, then technology came in.
I had children early. And so I had also the good fortune of being a Sunday school teacher. I was teaching teens.
Yes.
And when I was handling these teenagers, I could see the rate at which things were changing. I use an illustration of my children to sort of gauge how technology was switching, and those things were the signposts for me to start to change with them.
Yeah.
When they just first went abroad, when I go to stay to America, they come stay with me in my hotel room, and they will fight. The two of them, Tega and Mena, will fight over remote control. Daddy, he doesn't want me to watch this. You know, after a while, I discovered that when they come to my room, they just want to jump in the bed and pull the duvet and hold their phones underneath the duvet, and my television is there. They don't touch it.
You had your piece.
I had
and they
my
were
piece,
in their own world.
and I was looking at this kid. I would say, "Time to go to bed. Turn off your phones." But they will turn off the phone the minute I go to my own room.
Boom.
They are back on. Yeah. I saw that switch, and I knew that one had to keep up. And keeping up meant understanding what was going on.
Yes.
Understanding that television was gradually migrating from the wall
to the
palm. Yeah. And it also meant that we needed to work smartly, you know. And that is what you find today, even among the young people.
Yes.
Why do we have YouTube millionaires today, and people are still saying they are looking for who to help them?
Yes, yes.
There are boys who started streaming from their phones.
Yes.
There's a guy called Itom who does all these things with his phone. I did one of my birthday things with him, you know. He records with his phone.
Yes.
He edits everything with his phone.
Yes.
And today he's a brand influencer, all kinds of things. And so when young people come to me, sometimes I say to them that if you are not lazy, you will understand that you do not really need anything anymore than everything is here now. Yes. You need to make the switch. Wow. Find out what other young people are doing to ensure that they can beat the odds. You know, because now to be an entrepreneur means owning your own thing. Yeah. Being able to do it yourself. Yes. That's what being an entrepreneur is. Yes. So this is the age of entrepreneurs. We have seen the .com billionaires and all of that. Now you can sit in your room and use the tools that are available and go viral in 1 second.
1 second.
Look at what happened to us when we were under lockdown.
Yes.
The Nigerian economic space was transformed by these young people who were solution-based providers. They were looking for solutions. If you needed to move money, they were looking for solutions. And what was the biggest thing we had? PayPal. Yeah. These boys made billions. Yes. You know? And today, look, there's Flutterwave, there's Piggyverse, there are all kinds of things that these kids are redefining, you know, the entire space, economically, socially, and everything, even to how they organize governmental resistance or leadership resistance and everything. Yes. Twitter is a tool. Yeah. We saw the Arab Spring and everything, and today in Nigeria we have our own kind of spring. You know, we saw all that play out during the elections. You know, so we for me, I'm a trend watcher, and I like to be able to at least navigate it. You know, I might not be an expert in it. It is the age of AI now. Yeah. How can you sit back and not be able to deploy AI to help yourself? Yeah. You know, so we all need to keep, you know, watching these trends and see how we can switch and not become dinosaurs overnight.
In fact, it's that dinosaur effect that I actually wanted to leap onto. Yes. That, you know, that switch that you made, something must have informed it beyond technology in your career.
Yes, it's the zeal to survive.
Yeah.
It's the zeal to survive and be in the very top of the being at the very top of the food chain. Because the minute you drop off, to climb back up there is very difficult.
If possible.
You know, it is so important that you must keep up. And keeping up means, you know, researching, reading, you know, asking questions, and being able to unlearn, you know, because you can't sit in one place and say, oh, I've done this for 40 years.
The truth is that you, for instance, you read theater and then you went to read law.
Yeah. It was his pursuit of knowledge. Knowledge is never wasted. And for me, in fact, people look at me and say, oh, you knew you were going to go into government. I said, no. But it made me ready.
Yes.
It made me, so today, my credentials are good enough to hold any kind of public office.
Yes.
Apart from having put in time into work, because post-graduation, this is 40 years. So I can hold any public position today because I qualify for it, both experientially and, of course, academically. You know.
Right. And then having read law, you found it easier to navigate the law aspect of your job.
Of my today, I can't mention names, but there are people that are being exploited on a daily basis that I created myself and slammed it on their channel. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, this can't be happening. They know me. They see my name. And nobody comes to me to say, we are running this thing on our channel, or we want to run this on our channel. Instead, I'm getting reports. So we just did video recording, and I told my lawyers, like, go make the approach. And at first, they were trying to be like, oh no, but when they saw the facts on the table, I said, I will, if this will be the last thing, if this is the last thing with my last breath, I will teach you not to do it to another person when I'm done with you guys. Also, they had the good sense to quickly start appealing to my human side. And of course, we settled out of court, but you know, not without them paying something. So that enablement comes from having gone to school, studied law, and also being able to still stay within that aspect of the law. Teach younger lawyers about it, because there is just so much. In today's world, you cannot be talking about content without seeking to look at the people who are producing the content and protecting them, because content goes across boundaries. It is without borders. And there is so much in there legally. The legal regimen for that whole, you know, body of it's amazing. And there are lawyers who are still saying, oh, I want to enter into the entertainment space, but I don't know what to do.
When the entertainment space is already surrounding you.
The entertainment space is begging you to come in, because what happens in Nigeria is that people look at practitioners and expect practitioners to be the ones to be the change in whatever they're doing. I want to come in and clock in as an actor on a daily basis. So I would rather that a banker is watching the figures and watching what the data is saying about my work, instead of you waiting for me to come to your bank to tell you, oh, there's so much money in this work that I do, come and give me the money for it. As opposed to them coming into the space and looking at it and seeing how they can.
Okay. We'll take a break now. When we're back, we're going to talk about something that I know is very dear to RMD, which is mentorship, mentoring the younger generation. A few big names lay claim to him being their mentor. Stay tuned.
We do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
You're welcome back. It's still Timeless Conversations, RMD. Let's talk about you. You have given a lot of your network, your space to younger people. Every time Alibaba speaks of his sojourn in Lagos, your name is within the first 2 or 3 sentences. I just go meet them, show me the way. Why do you do stuff like that?
Because I have had the opportunity of also being embraced and mentored by some of the biggest names in the industry. I met Uncle Olu Jacobs, I met Uncle Peter Doche, I met Professor Wole Soyinka, and so on and so forth. Now, somebody doesn't have to, you don't have to be with somebody in close proximity to be, for the person to be your mentor.
No.
You know, so you see them, you love their work, and so you aspire to want to, you know, be like them or be even bigger than what they have done. And so for me, every time that younger people come to me, it's a teaching moment. I was born to teach. I teach, and so I've had the privilege of, you know, encountering people like Alibaba, you know, when he first came into Lagos, you know, and what I liked about him was the hunger. You know, not very many people will come to you and say, "Oh, I'm a comedian," and I funny die, and I say, "Well, make me laugh now." And there he went at it. Yeah. For the next 20 minutes, I'm the one begging, "Okay, you funny, it's okay." You know, so it was a joy for me to be able to work with him and take him around and show him the ropes. Yes. You know, I had similar encounter with Moody.
Yeah.
I remember I was mourning when Moody would come to me and say to me, "Bros, Asabi, so I just need help, you know." I was in mourning, my late wife, when I got tired of listening to this young man. I just called my younger brother one day and I said, you know, I think it was at that time in '96, it was about $18,000 naira or so that he needed, or 20-something thousand naira that he needed for his shop. Sure. And I give it to my brother. And I said, "Go and pay this money to the landlord." And I turned to him and I said, "Don't make me regret this this investment in your life, you know." And today, the man owns an entire street with his fashion brand. Yes. I'm very proud of him. In fact, after that first rent that I paid, he came to me again and said, "Bros, I need more money." So this time, you know, I want you to be, you have shares in my thing, you'll be my partner. And I said to him, "What would you think if tomorrow you now make money? I will now come and say, 'Hey, how far today? How much you don't make? Maybe you will not give me small thing.' And if you have gotten married, I'm gotten married, and our wives should now be looking at each other like, this one just comes here to take money." I said, "Don't worry." So I gave him money again. I said, "I don't want any part of it. Just do well. That's all I want, you know." And I'm happy to report that he's done well, and he pays it forward, you know, as well. Of course, Bovie, it was me that gave him his first job. He was my PA. Teju Babyface, I took him under my wing.
Yes, you were even in Diamond Ring.
Together. You know, I had forgotten about him, but when I was in Unilag, he found his way to me, and till today, he's still under my wings, and I'm happy to help. And AY, you know, so I'm happy. that I'm in a position to inspire younger people. There are younger actors today that not very many people know that I ran a workshop, an acting workshop where Desmond Elliott was one of my students.
He was?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, he was one of my students. And you can tell.
Yeah.
Because good work is light. Knowledge is light.
Yeah.
I remember at the end of our course, of my workshop with them, I said, this one, you will go far. I remember Zemeji saying to me one day that, I know that you train this boy, but you have to tell him to stop trying to act like you. That he has to find his own. I said, don't worry, leave him, he's young. He will define himself. For now, this is, I'm happy today. He's killing it as a legislator and also as a film producer and all that. So, I'm happy to be of help. There are so many more that there are people who see me and say to me that, oh, because of you, I read theater. Yeah, because of you, my child is reading theater. One of the biggest things that happened to me that day, I just broke down and cried.
Oh, wow.
When I was building Namole, there was a day that I had run out of money. You know how that day I was like, you know what, 12 o'clock, I didn't have money to even pay workers for the food day. I said, 12 o'clock, shut the place down and let everybody go. And I have money, I will continue. So I usually would drive to my site around 5 p.m. So that day at 12 o'clock, I said, let me go and shut down the place. So I didn't get there till about 1. And I saw them working and all that. So I called the foreman, like, what's going on? He said, that the owner of a school near my place there just came and was asking that, she always liked this land. She wanted to buy this land. That who's the owner of this place? Oh, it's RMD's place. Oh, that's the young actor. So she left and sent, I think, 50 bags of cement to my site, and he gave instruction that just don't tell him not to come to me. I just tell him, I said, welcome to the neighborhood, So that day, I'm like, I never look for, I don't think I deserve anything. So when people show me kindness, so I'm like, no, I'm going to go meet this woman. Why would she just give me 50 bags of cement and say that she should come and say hello? So I went to her school, and, I finally saw her, and she said, oh, it's for nothing, I said, but since you came, let me show you something. So she went to her filing cabinet and drew it out and brought out a paper plate and showed me the paper plate. And I saw my autograph on it. That time there was no phone. No phone to do autograph and all that. So I saw my signature on the plate. I said, do you remember this plate? I said, I think I remember that it must have been in London. He says, yes. He said, my daughter saw you in London at a party in London and came to you and said she loves acting, and you signed this plate. You signed her party plate that she was supposed to use to eat. You signed it and she kept it. Wow. He said, today, my daughter is studying theater because of you. She's specializing on radio and everything. I just started crying. Wow. So, that for me, a few years later, the daughter will come back to Nigeria, and the woman calls me and says, your daughter is around, though. She wants to do radio internship. I said, leave it to me. Yeah. I got a repower. I called Raymond Dokpesi at the time, and they were happy to put her on radio. And then, of course, the mother could hear her voice on radio.
Of course.
So when things like this happen, you are thankful for the kind of life you've led. That you can be. It's not easy to be a role model. It's very tasking. Because then you can't have a break.
Yeah, that's the truth.
You cannot take a break and do rubbish.
No.
It is very tasking.
Talking about it being tasking brings to mind the thought of you, say like since 1985 85 or
84.
84. You've been in Lagos, resident, fully resident, a citizen of the city or state, right? And you have been playing lead roles since the early 2000s.
No, since 84.
I'm winding you.
Since 84, because
right.
for stage,
yeah.
I transited into television.
TV and the movies.
And movies.
Yeah. What have you brought to your craft that sustained you as the go-to lead person, lead man in your career?
It's dedication. Dedication, because when you are dedicated to your craft, you will hone it. You know, because it's there. We are all gifted in some way with something or the other. It is identifying that thing earlier on.
Yes.
So I have never, even though I've served in government for 8 years and I'm a lawyer, I always will start by saying my name is Richard Mofe-Damijo and I'm an actor.
Yes. That's it.
Full stop. You will discover in the course of our interaction that I'm a leader, I'm a life coach, I'm a speaker, I'm a Sunday school teacher. I can moonlight as a pastor sometimes. I'm a lawyer and I can be a politician. So it is that. So I imbue whatever it is that I'm doing with everything that is inside me. I pour into everything that is inside that I'm asked to do. There is something that I say, and I'll say this in closing. Maybe that will help somebody out there. When they say the eyes are the windows to the soul, it is very true of actors and the camera. When the camera looks at the actor or films the actor on TV or on film, it can see to the soul of the actor. And if the camera sees, that means the audience, is the audience POV, is seeing. Now, if you're faking it, they will catch you.
They will. They will.
You can only fake it for this long. Now, but if you are not faking it, if you truly love the job and respect the job and respect the people for whom you do it for, the people will find it. That is the convergence of God blessing the work of your hand. So it is when that's dedication and respect for the audience converges with God's blessing that you blow. Because the people can see you.
Talking about Blue, Black Book.
Yes.
How well has it done? I've watched it twice.
Oh, Black Book is probably, people say, some of my colleagues say to me, Bros, you can now retire. It's being called the biggest African title ever to be streamed because we did incredible numbers. It's the first